More life thing. Are you feeling ire? Amazingness. Beautiful Tuesday it is. Alafu today I'm extremely happy because gang imerudi. Bado Willis Raburu pekee. How are you? Are you feeling good? Happy belated Father's Day to you kama uko ambiwa na mtu yote uko nyumbani. Today we want to discuss it here. Wacha ni introduce Mbogi. We start with you. Jasmine.
Jambo.
How are you?
Missouri.
How have you been?
BA, Dio, Dani. I am good. I'm good.
Okay, where's our fine?
Nilinipa. Sasa ilikuwa too expensive.
Don't worry. Tukitoka hapa you will give it to us. You cannot have just gone that long and then just come like slide like nothing happened. Bobby. Wagwan.
Mambo.
Poa sana.
Niko happy, very happy.
Umesema ukitoka hapa kuna kwenda job leo.
Leo. Nite palibashi kwa leo.
You gonna pull up.
Go chain nini. Skirt.
How's the week been?
I'm amazing. I'm very happy. I'm feeling very, very excited. I had missed Jasmine. I'm so happy. Everyone is Say ni Willis too. So yeah, I'm happy. How are you?
Mimi niko best. Nashukuru Mungu.
Yeah.
True that. How's it? CJ.
How you doing?
Fine, man.
You know, okay, eventually when Willis comes,
yes,
we all go on leave.
He has to feel it.
He remains here with Jasmine.
Punishment.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's good to be here. Good to have Jasmine as well. Always good to have Roberta when she has energy like this.
True that.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we want to talk about fatherhood and the father factor. Because during the weekend kulikuwa na Father's Day. Other occasions zikifanyika kuna kuaga na sherehe mpwito, people celebrate their mothers, their uncles, their aunties, their brothers, sisters. But when it came to this Father's Day, there was some pedigree that you have to have reached to this level so that we celebrate you. If you're not yet here, we will not celebrate you. Some people are celebrating their fathers, others were condemning them, others were saying they are calling themselves fathers, and yet they are not fathers. And there was a whole heap of confusion in the whole thing. But don't worry yourself. If you've been in that confusion, I trust this panel to give you a solution and a path. Okay? We'll start with you, CJ.
What do you want to know?
Right now.
We start. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
That's room.
Thank you.
So you've been you saw what was happening on Sunday, and the happenings around the entire Father's Day thing. So the question that kept coming to my mind was, what is it then that defines fatherhood? What is it that someone is supposed to do so that they get celebrated?
Well, I don't think they need to do anything because they're a father, regardless. Whether they are responsible or not, they're a father. So if you're going to celebrate fathers, somebody is not less of a father because there are certain areas of their lives that are not working. But again, we have to look at the challenges that men generally face. Like, most of them have not had models of what fatherhood means. For most men, being a good father or a husband is the ability to provide, which is very significant. But that is not the main thing. I was having a discussion with some people somewhere, and I said, if you ever leave, your children can forgive you for not having money, but they'll never forgive you for not being there. Sometimes we think that the provision of money is the only thing that a father needs to do. So what it does is that when men don't have money to take care of their children, they leave because they think they're failing. But they don't look at the aspect of molding this person, putting and instilling values in them. They're great people whose fathers were never rich. But you'll hear them say, my father taught me this, my father taught me this. He taught me respect. He told me work hard. He told me to honor people. He told me never disrespect other people. He told me take care of people who are less privileged. Now, that person may not have given money and may not have had money, but they have raised somebody in society that then we will celebrate either because of the character, disposition, or things like that. So when a man runs away or leaves or is meant to feel that he's less of a man because he didn't have the money, we rob the child of something that he would have brought in. He would bring in instruction, he would bring in discipline, he would bring in vision, he would bring in affirmation, he'd bring in a sense of identity. That's why you'll still find men, even when they get to 40, they're still looking for father figures. Girls will look for father figures. It's not just men who are affected by the absence of fathers. Girls will look for those father figures. And if a girl grew up in a family where she did not see the mother having the leadership of a man, she will struggle with that because that's a very foreign image. If a man did not have the image of another man leading him, he may have issues with that later on in the workplace and everywhere else because they're not used to male authority. So when they grow up, they are more comfortable talking to female authority than a male authority because this one becomes like an invasion. So we need to understand that the primary role for me, for a father, is to lead his family. Lead. The provision comes in later, but the primary role is to lead. And you can lead even when the other person, for example, if your wife or the mother of the children is earning more. When you're a CEO, you don't employ people around you who are less educated, less experienced or something. You still remain the visionary leader and you remain at the point of strategy, but you will look for the best people in the field. No matter how well educated and experienced, articulate they are in whatever they are doing, you still remain the general leader. You're not intimidated by what they bring. What they bring complements you and you offer general leadership. So men's primary purpose, or rather primary role as fathers, is to lead. Now, the only thing then that person needs to have is the destination.
True. When you say a man's primary role is to lead, but the society that we live in today has equated that leadership to money. Because if you do not have money, you cannot lead us. You cannot tell us. Maybe you're in a family that maybe your wife has more money than you and she has more say than you, you know? So in such a situation where I asked this yesterday on a group, you keep feeling like you're falling short of the expectations as a man. Do you feel that kuna pressure kama you make your vijana right now that wana feel balamini ishi na mtu hivi anaondokea ngori?
Yeah, and we need to talk about it because I feel like this is patriarchy and it is imposed on all of us, but it doesn't just affect the women, it affects the men as well, because who's setting these standards for men? Who's making these rules? Because it reaches a point within your growth as you're growing throughout life and improving yourself. And yes, ikipita, you have to understand that you cannot live up to society's standards and rules and things like that, because society will always shift the goalposts. Like there was a time Eurocentric features ndo zilikuwa what's beautiful world over. When you're hiring models, she has to be tall and skinny, and then now we're seeing all these black girls being emulated and loved, and it's because society itashinda ikishift goalpost. Saizi bell bottoms ndo fashion, saizi ni skinny jeans. Like it will always shift. That's why you need to start knowing yourself. You have to start to want better for yourself. And by this ni kujijua. And I always say you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't even show up as a father or a leader or in whatever capacity you want to show up as or in if you're not feeling yourself with the knowledge that you need. Because everything CJ was saying, it takes for you to be grown and to have some sort of knowledge to understand that kulea mtoi, lazima ukwe na love, compassion, lazima ukwe na hizo leadership skills, lazima ukwe na hizo qualities zenye unataka kuinstill kwa mtoi, and then everything else becomes secondary. Because if you're the type of father who says, society expects me to buy a car, society expects me to take my kid to Hillcrest, society expects me to... You consistently go chasing and chasing and chasing, and then you forget everything about what being a father is. There's so many people who've grown up rich with everything they could possibly need. They've gone to the best schools, they have money, they have all the resources they need to become the people that they should be, but their fathers are not present. It's like venye daddy akikam home, kila mtu anahepa sitting room, kila mtu anaenda kwa room. It's not that ati we don't love our dad or nini. We grew up like that because the dad is foreign. He's consistently out there trying to reach these standards because hiyo ndo swali watu jiuliza, society itasema nini ama nisipo, and you really have to separate yourself from that, because if you do not, how do I win, how do I fight against other people's opinions? Imagine you've never had the same experiences as anyone else, even your own brother that you grew up with in the same house. We're all very different, so everyone's opinion is always going to be skewed towards their experiences and what they've how they've grown up, what they've learned over the years, so many things, other external factors. So you have to understand that to be a father is not just the providing and the protecting aspect. It has so many other things. You have to teach this children so many things, like love. How are you going to teach them love when you're not able to be present? And you can't say they learn from mama, they learn from lack of a father figure in the house. It's always felt, just like CJ was saying, it brings about daddy issues in men and women. And that's why now people are having to go into therapy to understand why they're acting the way they're acting, or how such situations of lacking a father within the household is affecting them even in their relationships right now as grown-ups. So it's really a big issue, but I'd say if you're a father, or whatever capacity you have to show up in, you have to understand that you're so much bigger than just the money, the provision that you bring to the table. You're so much more than what other people are gonna say or what opinions they're gonna have of you, of who you're supposed to be as a father. How do I win? How do I win? Because mimi si father, but neza kachini nianze kusema, oh, father should do this. I do not know. I'm not a father. I cannot speak on that situation, but I can have an opinion. So if there's someone out there who's listening to me, who's not a father, who's never going to be a father, hey, Roberta alisema, you see, you can't live to my standards and my expectations. The best thing you can do for yourself is get to know yourself and grow in the way that you need to show up, and then make sure that you actually show up as a father. Because mi sina shida hata na celebrate fathers or anything, but I feel like the fathers who are more deserving are the ones who are present. Okay, you had money, you took me to school, everything, you did all that, but were you there as... I'm not saying we won't celebrate the others, I'm just saying it would be really nice, because there was a TikTok going around of this guy who was asking the same question that you're asking. And in the comments, I saw guys saying, yeah, Miss post Budangu because he was never there. Like, he never showed up. It's not about the money. It's not about what he paid for or all these things. He just wasn't present. And most of the comments were similar. If you were there, oh, he went for milk and never came back. Those dad jokes for milk and all those things. So it's like the dads aren't really there. And I'm not saying it's their fault, because ukweli tunaishi in a patriarchal society, but then it boils down to who's making these rules. Is it us, the women, who are saying, or is it the men who are enforcing it? Like, can you guys be able to say you guys are emotional beings that are supposed to be able to exist as you are without it just being about money and all these things? Like, I think it's something we need to do collectively together, so that we get to a point where men know it's okay to show up as you are and learn on the way and grow as we go.
True that. Kuna pali umesema kitu, we put a cliffhanger. We shall come back. We shall come back to that. Shaz, yesterday you told me if someone is feeling you're falling short, it means they have expected. And Robert has just said that fathers are alien, because most of the time they're out there trying to fend for the family, you know? So how do you strike the balance?
You know, the first thing I want to say is there's no certification for parenthood, and there's no certification for fatherhood. And we do the best we can as parents in the best ability that we can. You know, yesterday I read something on Instagram, and somebody put this post saying, my father was never around, and so I'm allowed to feel the pain of him having not been around, or having been the toxic father that he was. And you are entitled to hold on to your anger, and fatherhood or Father's Day must be very difficult for many people. And if it was, it's okay if you're angry. And I read that text, and I read what a couple of people responded to that. And I realized that we all have a right to whatever we feel we have a right to. But holding on to anger, your parents didn't give you the anger. They didn't come and say, I wanted to fail as a father. I wanted to fall short in your eyes. Therefore, here, carry this pain for the rest of your life. I want you to never have beautiful relationships when you grow up. No father wakes up wanting to be the parent like that. And, you know, there's so much out there now that says don't make excuses for bad fathers. But then I thought about it yesterday and I said, is there a bad father? What categorizes, what gives us a right to be able to say you are a bad father and you are a great father? Because the job, the work, the healing, no matter whether you like it or not, is going to come down to you. And that's why we say in your 20s, you're going to figure out who you are in life. You're going to figure out how you're going to heal. But you don't get to stay ignorant to the pain. And you don't get to blame your parents for the rest of your life. I understand when you're a teenager, if you're growing up with an absent father, it will hurt, it will be confusing, and you'll use your 20s to figure that out through different relationships or different situations. But then you have to grow through that, and you become your own man, and you use your father for the way he was to see the gifts that he did give you, present or absent. So I think the first thing is it's so easy, you know, as a society, because we have social media, to put fathers down. But I feel if they were absent, that was a gift for you. If they were present, and they were present in the sense where they just financially provided for you, but you wanted so much more, that's beautiful that you wanted so much more, because that lack brought that out in you, and now you get a chance to be that for the next generation. But I feel when you look at expectations of a father, you're coming from generations where your dad didn't question the love he got from his dad. And his dad never thought of what a hug or a kiss would feel like from his father. It's you that's breaking that with your children. It's you that will wake up and hug your son and decide that I want to be the provider, not only financially, but I want to be the provider for your soul, with love, with kindness, with caring, with teaching you as a boy how to grow up with masculine energy, but also feminine energy, which means you as a male, as a father, also has to embody feminine energy. But you see, a lot of men now are torn because they turn around and say, I grew up with lack and I didn't know how to be. But then you're learning how to be. And with the lack, you realized what you wanted more of. So you still know who you want to be and what you want to strive to. How to get there, you can work through it. There's, I don't know if any of you ever watched Jane the Virgin. Mm-hmm. So Justin Baldellini, he has a podcast called Not Man Enough. And he talks so much about how when he became a father, he realized what he didn't get, but how he could give that to his children. And then it was, did he not get it? Really? Because that's our perception, that we didn't get love, that we wanted so much more. But when you go down to see where you did get love, where you did get care, even if it's a father with the milk joke of you left, where was it that he left that allowed your family to grow, to heal? Where was it that your father not being present brought out a different side of you that showed you to love your mom, be soft, to care? And maybe your dad not being present should have helped you grow into a man that can be more present for women around you. It's just we choose to have the excuse that I'm going to be a man that doesn't care about women or is not this amazing father because my father wasn't that to me. So we get to have excuses as a human being. But I think at some point, whoever your father was in your life, even I was talking to Igunza yesterday, and I said, at some point you're going to have to learn forgiveness. And when you even look at the word forgive, it is for you to still give. And you're forever going to have to be the person that's evolving, learning, growing, and forgiving your father for being who he was, so that you could be the person you are today.
True that. CJ, Sisi, growing up, let alone playing with your father, smiling with your father was a tall order. Like, you couldn't crack a joke around your dad, and he could not crack a joke around you. You see? But with the fatherhood of today, we are assuming roles that mostly were not manly roles. Like, you'd see a man now, they walking, carrying their baby, changing their diapers and everything. So this fatherhood thing is evolving every day. You wake up and there's a new expectation of you, that which Shaz was just talking about. And in this learning, okay, how do you now start unlearning the things that you saw your father do and you thought this is it? But right now you realize that if I do this, then I don't think I should be doing this. But you saw it growing up and it was instilled in you, but now you have to unlearn and relearn other things.
You know, the process of learning is so continuous that even things that you didn't learn from your father, you would still have to unlearn. You have to be a different person now from who you were like 5 years ago. That's the process of growth. There may have been a way I would react probably to things or respond to them. And when I sit back, I see the damage that does either to me or other people and begin to challenge myself to respond differently. So even before you go way back to what the fathers were, the process of growth and learning is something that every human being needs to continually do. If I find myself talking in a certain way and it upsets Shazmin, then I talk to you and then you raise the same issue and then Roberta raises the same issue. I need to reflect on, could there be something wrong with how I'm responding to things or talking to people? Why does everybody seem to have a problem? Now, that may not even come from my father. It may just be generally my personality. So having said that, I think it makes it easy to understand that learning is a continuous thing that we should never be afraid of. So we don't make excuses and say, I'm the way I am because this is what I saw. Because even if what you saw was good, we keep on changing and we're evolving. Everything is. You may not lose the foundational aspects, but then you keep on remodeling yourself to meet the current needs at that particular point. There are people probably who had fathers who smiled and laughed. My father, the only thing I used to have against my father, and I was angry for a very long time, was he was mostly drunk. So he wasn't living with us where we were. He was working somewhere else and would come in probably once a month or 2 times in a month. So my issue with him was, you see, he would never fend for us. So my mother took care of everything. So there's certain things that you would actually lack or not be able to do because the pressure was too much. So you'll have a mother who has to work very hard. The pressure is much on her. This pressure will pass on to the kids at some point because she's not built emotionally to bear all of that. So you'll find a toughened mother in a sense. And then she was a teacher. So she was my teacher in school and at home. So there were no boundaries between school and home, you know. So you don't really then get to find the soft side because you meet this here, you meet this on the other side. And when my dad would come around, you'd sit like this and talk. He'll be quiet. He'll say, let me come back. When he comes back, he's totally drunk. You know, he'd be picked up on the road and stuff. My dad was drinking, real heavy drinking. So that thing brought a disconnection because I remember one time I went to visit him from high school and I thought, Mama's been doing a lot of things for us. So I want to go to Dad so that I get my pocket money from there. And my dad told me he didn't have money, which was something that he used to do a lot. He would always say he didn't have money. Then you'd find him drunk. So he said he didn't have money. Then I was doing this rounds because he was working in a sugar company. So I was doing these rounds. Then I meet my dad handcuffed with some few people. They were taking illicit brew in the sugar plantation. And then the cops came and arrested them. And then my dad sent me to the house and he said, go to this place, you will find the money. Remember he had told me he didn't have money. That thing did not leave me because it nearly sounds like a rejection. It was the first time I needed something from my dad. I was just 15 years old. And I come to him and he says he doesn't have money. Then he's arrested. Then he actually sends me back to the house and says, there's money over here. I ran up on the bat. Well, the policemen had taken him quite too far. And I remember going to one police station and they said to me, if you had come here when he was still here, we would have released him. They said, how could he have a son like you? Like this. They couldn't believe 15-year-old running up and about trying to get the father out of trouble and stuff. So I went back to school and I felt broken, you know. And that went on for a while because even by the time he was dying. He just retired. He was being released from work. He died on the eve of his farewell party. At that time, we were having issues about his drinking. So we sat there, myself, my mother, my sister, and we were talking about his drinking. Like, if you're going to retire and you're coming here, you need to change a few things. Well, so we had a very difficult conversation with him that day. And that was the last time I saw him. So I carried guilt, I carried anger, I carried pain. But generally what the female heads, I started looking for that. The thing that Shazmin was talking about, that somebody gives without you knowing that they've given, eventually I started doing mentorship for men. I started doing programs for men. I started moving into media because of the things I was doing with men. My initial platforms, my initial shows, my initial interviews were because of the things I was doing with men. So, did he give? Yes, I didn't see it then. And it took me a while before I started telling people that I wrote a book for men, which has sold a lot. And I told people, I said, you know, I realize now that I have this because of who my father was. So from where he was, I began searching because I needed to know, what is manhood? I mean, when I was in college, I have this friend of mine. He was like an elder brother. The first time this man gave me a hug, I nearly felt violated because male connections, that was a bit strange. I had brothers, yes, but they kept it from a distance. So it was strange for me that this man gave me a hug. Today, I hug my sons in the morning, I hug my sons in the evening. It's very easy. I'll hold them, whatever it is. So it still comes back to the place of the decisions that you make, that you keep looking at how the things you do affect people, and you decide, I need to become a better person. Whether the behavior comes from your father or from yourself, you just owe it to yourself to become a better person.
True. After that, we just needed to go on a break for people to consume.
To breathe. Yeah. It's a heavy topic.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, so before, there's something you've said, but we will pick it with Shaz. I want to ask Roberta, kuna madem wenye wanataka bwana yake aishi na yeye vile aliona baba yake akiishi. You see? She wants a replica of her father in you as a man. And sometimes maybe you cannot do that. Probably that is not how you grew up. You didn't see it that way. You don't think that is how it's supposed to be. In such a situation, do you think udem ako justified kutaka kuona bwanake akiwa kama budake ama tu akona zake?
I think that's those expectations still, that it's like people impose them on other people. There's no way someone else can tell you how to be or what to do. It has to come from you, and that's why you have to know who you are so that you can exist as yourself and attract the people who want you and accept you as you are. Because that situation is very, you can tell that's not a lady that's, you know, growing and healing. Maybe she is in a space where she's feeling safe, and because of the familiarity of what she's used to and what she likes or whatever situation it could have been, whether it's her father was providing and now she's dating someone who maybe he's going through a rut, he's unable to show up as she's expecting, you know. And that's why I say date people who like you. It's way easier for you guys to trigger these things in each other, so that instead of kukasirikiana ama kuargue, if you start to notice that that's how she is, it's easier for you guys to have conversations about it so that you can start to grow and start to heal from it. It's not a good expectation. It's not something that you should settle for. I feel like when someone is in a relationship with you, they have to be very accepting of who you are while acknowledging that there's always room for growth and change and healing and improvement and mistakes and everything else. So if you're in a situation like that, I'd say there's a lot of communication and fixing that needs to start happening, because it's not nice. It's not nice to be with someone and constantly holding expectations over their heads of what they're supposed to do or who they're supposed to be. If you're feeling uncomfortable if you're the person who's in the situation and you keep asking for what you're not getting, maybe you need to start reevaluating and asking yourself questions about, is this something you want to really settle for? Is this a situation you want to be in? Is this something you can tolerate and condone? Or is this someone who you're willing to be patient with and willing to understand and communicate with so that you guys can fix the issue together and get better with each other? Because I realized that's how relationships are. Like, for relationships to start working and for you guys to get better with each other, you're really going to trigger the hell out of each other. It's not at smooth sailing. All those abandonment issues you have, all those daddy issues you have, like the lady that you gave the example for, all those things are going to be triggered continuously. And how you set apart someone that you can grow with from someone that you should maybe remove yourself from is, are they willing to learn? Are they willing to be accepting that this is something that is affecting the relationship? Or are we just going to ignore like it's not an issue and then move on from it? And something I really like about this panel is just hearing people speak shows me that like when I start feeling myself getting defensive, it's like I have an answer for that, or I want to contest that. It shows me that I'm bothered because it's an issue I have. So I have to work on it. I have to think about it. I have to sit back on, because when I sat on this panel, when we were beginning, I had a different opinion. But now after listening to CJ and Shaz, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm still angry at my dad. Maybe I need to go sit down and think about, I need to start spreading more love and understanding and patience and compassion and start seeing the other side of things. Not just to be, he did this, he wasn't there, so he didn't. No, it's about healing and growing and getting better and constantly improving yourself. So I think it would be better to be in relationships with people who are like that. Someone who's able to, when they trigger, they see, oh, okay, there's an issue there. There's something I need to think about in that exact situation and see what do I need to fix or how do I need to get better and improve.
True that.
Yeah.
Shaz, in the giving, and you say someone might have given you something unknowingly, but again, in the giving, you cannot now pick the positive alone. You might also have picked something negative. Maybe you grew up in an abusive family, like you saw your father physically abusing your mother, and you grew up thinking this is the right way of doing things. So there is someone that grew up like that today, and they are watching the show, and they think violence is part of life. And unfortunately, maybe the partner grew up in an abusive family as well. So she thinks also it is normal, and they're living today. They took these things from their families and their parents. How would you advise such people?
Well, first, I just want to say I really felt Roberta's, I got the tears in her eyes, and I really felt her say that I felt that shift. That was so beautiful to be able to see. But, when you look at evolution of spirit, of intellect, of emotion, it's going to come down to you wanting a better life. I don't feel, if there's somebody out there right now, saying or thinking that it's normal to be in an abusive relationship, they already know that it's not. Everybody knows it's not normal to wake up and get hit. It's not normal to have somebody emotionally abuse you as well. And that being said, parents do it a lot. Parents emotionally abuse children all the time, with stonewalling, with the silent treatment, with bringing their confidence down, with criticizing them and talking to them and calling them names. That's emotional abuse that children will start experiencing from a young age. So even if your parents never physically hit you and they treated you that way and they weren't mindful or conscious of how to raise you, then you grew up feeling anxious and avoidant. And that's why all those attachment styles, when you grow up with parents that love you, where you watch the dynamics of mom and dad have disagreements, but they're in love. It's a beautiful family household I'm growing up in. You tend to move into a more secure attachment style with the person you look for because you know what to emulate. But at the same time, if you're being hit and you grew up seeing mom and dad hit each other, there is a part of you as a child that says that isn't normal, that's not right. And it's natural instinct to know it. We know when we're doing good, we know when we're doing bad. But we also choose as human beings to hold on to excuses because it's easier than changing who we are. And I feel reading, going for therapy, getting coaching, you don't even need to physically go to somebody, but there's so much information out there right now if you're feeling lost and confused that you can get guidance on just from Google and YouTube. So I feel if people are saying, I'm in a relationship and I'm getting hit or I'm hitting my partner because that's how I grew up, then at some point that replaying in your life is for you to pause and think, is this what I want to recreate? Or did I grow up seeing it so that I could be conscious not to attract it? And whether we like it or not, we're going to attract dating, falling in love, and marrying our parents. And the point of that is so you can heal in that relationship. Because the first relationship you're going to have, the first romance, the first love, the first person who's a hero, who's a legend, who's the villain in your life, are your parents. And then the next person to take the wrath of your childhood is going to be your partner. And if it's the right partner, they will understand that as much as I have voids inside, you have voids. So this relationship, if it's going to begin triggering us and we love each other, let's heal. And if it's triggering us and bringing out toxic sides of each other and we love each other, then we heal. Or if it's too toxic, then thank you for showing me that this is what I don't want. But you still don't get to blame your parents. You still don't get to say, because my dad hit my mom and my mom hit my dad, that's why I'm stuck in this relationship, because you're not. Now you're not a child. You're not stuck at home. Now you get to make decisions. Now you get to leave. Now you have a choice. And I feel it comes down to consciously choosing how I want to live the rest of my life, who I want to be as a spouse, and who I want to show up as a parent. And then I feel the role of women really being there for men in their fatherhood, because I see a lot of women will turn around and say, CJ's a man, he should just know how to be a father. And a good father means I wouldn't have to help him. But women have this beautiful, natural, maternal instinct. We have this beautiful Mother Nature healing love and this beautiful feminine energy. And I feel we should use that to be able to say, like I was talking to, Igunza yesterday, and I said, Mo was very different from me. Growing up, I was very conscious what kind of a mom I wanted to be. Mo, who's my husband, grew up as the guy who's, if I provide and I keep you guys happy, that's me showing you I love you. And there was nothing wrong with me telling Mo, put Jibs to bed, go read him a book, go sit with Gibran. Even now, while Mo's there, I'll still tell him, Mo, have you called Jibs? Make sure you speak to him. I think he had a bit of a tough day today. Text him. But it's me being able to help my husband have a better relationship with his son, because the end goal is for my son to be happy and feel he got the love for both of us. But that means as a woman, I'm not going to be toxic towards my man. I'm going to uplift him as a father. I'm going to uplift him as a husband and not take credit for it and be like, oh, I did that. You have a relationship with your dad because of that. But then being very careful also with some children who grow up against the father because the mother talked consciously about the father and how his shortcomings were, how she's struggling because of him. And you don't allow the child to make their own decision. And even if they want to love the absent father, they cannot, because now they're torn, because I have to love mom's version of dad. I have to support mom. So I feel like that women have to be, we carry so much power over men in a beautiful way. And I feel we've got to be able to use it in a nurturing way. So then it's not you against me, but it's us together. And you're not raising boys who feel sad about Women's Day, and you're not raising boys who feel there's not enough recognition for us. My son says it, he's 17. And on Women's Day, he brought it to my attention. He turned around and said, it's great it's Women's Day, Mom. I respect you. I respect all women in the world. But I'm so upset because how come there's no Men's Day? How come International Father's Day is on World Toilet Day? And he's like, fine, I get it's a joke. But he's 17, and he's like, if I speak about how I feel, I'm gonna have 20 women or 20 girls in my class tell me I'm a toxic man or a toxic boy. He's like, but I want to be recognized for being a gentleman, but I feel the way feminism is moving, it's making me not like it. And I really thought about that. And when we were celebrating Father's Day, part of me on Father's Day was like, oh my God, I gotta have Son's Day at home, just for him being a boy, or Boys' Day, or something. Because you don't realize, here's a boy you think is growing up in a very confident, loving household, but is still feeling, as a man, not recognized enough. And I feel as women, we gotta play that role to help not pull the shine away from men and be like, oh, we can do it better, but to be like, we're raising boys and we're marrying husbands, so we want to raise them as much as they raise us and work together on that.
True.
Yeah.
We take feedback and CJ, you comment on that part where there are mothers that speak ill of fathers in front of their children, and a child grows up with that image of their father from their mother. Okay? Tuchukue feedback kwanza, alafu turudi sija shikanisha za vitu zote. Alright. At Victor Peter 001, naomba kukaribia hapa, si ndio? Aya. I can attest that I was brought up with a tough dad. It molded me to who I am today. Though I'll try to bring my kids up well, but in a human way, not the military type. Okay? At JM Musoma, the Bible tells us to honor our father and mother because it's the only commandment with a promise, long life. For failing to honor your dad just because he wasn't there for you is being mean. Probably what your mom told you about why you grew up without a dad was a lie in capital letters. Okay, Emilio, ninakaribia tena. It's important to show up as a father. For the father to be around depends on whether the mother wants him to see the kids if they are separated. In the current world, you find some women, their main aim is to frustrate the man. This is killing many men through depression. Why do I need to die fighting with toxic women to see the kids? I rather wait, hoping after they grow up, they might understand. And we have seen it happening. Ingine ikuje kwenye SMS. Haya, at Winnie Evans. I think from my part, I really celebrate my dad, for he has been there ever since childhood. I celebrate you, hero to me. I feel like it's true. Fathers should spend time with their kids. I've never had time with my dad, and I know what it takes just talking to him through a phone call. All right. I am a victim of a runaway father, raised by a single mother. I am now 19. My point is, we don't mind about the provision of the father, but his physical appearance is more important. But despite that, both parents should contribute in provision of the family needs. My dad divorced my mom and never looked back for me and my brother. 21 years now. My baby daddy got me pregnant and rejected his child. In that case, I don't think I need a Father's Day in my calendar. Where? Eliud. The fact is that men wanaumia. Why doesn't the government come up with MIDA, like FIDA, which supports women more kwanza kwa sheria? Kwanza kwa sheria. I think there is mawe or something for men. Kuna, I think, Eliud, I think kunayo ya wanaume. Inaitwa, I think it's mawe. Maendeleo wanaume kituka hiyo empowerment. Iko.
Could I just say something so quick?
Yes.
You know, if you look at our fathers' generations, when they were having children, there was a conscious choice to the fact that we are consciously getting married and we consciously at some point want to have children, and then we consciously do have the children. I feel what people don't factor in right now is there's no consciousness to having a child anymore. It's, I'm sleeping around, I'm young, it's my body, I'll do what I want, and if I get pregnant or I impregnate somebody, it's no longer something that's as heavy as it was before. It's not a responsibility anymore. It's a freedom to do what I want when my body wants it, and no conscious thought of the action that I'm doing. And I just wanted to mention that because right now you see so many people who are 19, 21, 24, and the men are not part of their lives after they got pregnant. But it's because so much has changed. And that's why when I talk to young girls, I say, think about before you want to sleep around. Think about what if you do get pregnant, and at your age, not every man is going to stand up and say, I'm going to marry you and let's have a family. So I think it's also the generation has changed where it's non-conscious fatherhood as well.
True. You see, CJ, two texts from that one. Ya kwanza kuna huyu amesema yeye kwa maisha yake he does not think they need a Father's Day in their calendar. And there's kuna huyu wa Father's Day calendar na kuna huyu mwingine amesema baba aliwatoka na kuna huyu amesema Winnie, hiyo text ya second last. Mtu ameongelea kitu ya maana sana, we need to talk about it. Amesema fathers come back. No, they hope when you grow up, you will go look for them because it was impossible to live at home and they left and we've seen it happening, you know. So there is that aspect of growing up, being told negative things about your father, and there's a father that also is denied the opportunity to see their kid. You know, and they say, you know what, when they grow up, they will look for me. There's a joke that goes around that says Obama came back as an old man to look for his roots, you know. So in such a situation, how would you advise?
You know, it's interesting what has brought up of the element of conscious fatherhood. Not to throw anything against the ladies, but sometimes they become enablers of certain things. Just the thing of, you know, it's my body, it's my life, I do whatever I want, that they're also empowered to make decisions when it comes to intimacy, and nobody can put rules on me. They become a bit more available sometimes, and what you think is fun comes up with the repercussions. Now, this person is not mentally, emotionally, financially prepared to commit. He thought it's just going to be fun. So you have this, and motherhood changes women completely. The sense of responsibility hits her, the sense of commitment, the awareness that there's somebody else depending on her. But this boy will take off and just go. What that will do, it will raise a very bitter girl here, because she will feel we were in this together. I now have been left with the responsibility alone. And then it will begin to empower thoughts about men either not being responsible or not being necessary, and the anger that she will have towards the person. What this generation, it's different. They'll talk about baby daddy. When we were growing up as kids, there's nothing like baby daddy. You impregnate somebody, the family will bring these people to your place, and you will take responsibility rather. There, you'll be told that you marry her or something. You know, there wasn't the undefined relationships of, you know, as a baby daddy somewhere far. That's the only relationship we have with them. So I think that, as Shazmin was saying, ladies need to also be conscious of, when you get into these relationships, what risk are you putting yourself in terms of when you come to intimacy? Is that the kind of person that if something happened, you would still want that thing to happen with them? Like, is that the kind of person you would want to be pregnant for? These are qualities you would see before you even get pregnant. You would see whether the person is responsible. You'd see whether they are stable emotionally, whether they are stable mentally. You'd hear how they comment about all these other things, whether they are ready to have a child or something. If those discussions have not been had, then it would not be right for the lady to get into it, then expect this from the man. But talking about the men who say, you know, I'll come back, or the one who feels that the lady will be toxic towards the children, it's unfair and it's unfortunate, because in this whole relationship, you cannot change who the father of these children will be. There are cases sometimes where a man has decided and denied the children and said, those are not my kids. That's a very different situation. But even in that case, don't keep the conversation around the man. If you're the woman, Raise these children with the love. Fill the gap. Don't now make them bitter about the other person. Don't talk too much about that. If he doesn't want to get involved, he doesn't want to pay fees, he doesn't want to pay the bills, whatever it is, just find a different way to do this. And take it upon yourself. These are now my kids. Find other people who can play certain roles. You may have a brother, you may even have your own father alive, whom you can be visiting the children with. Their grandfather will tell stories, something. Fill the gaps without necessarily putting in bitterness and anger in these kids. As they grow, they're also going to make this, they'll make judgment by themselves that mom did everything, she never disrespected this man, but they will decide how to relate with him. When you decide, when you decide that your assignment is going to be to keep talking against this man over and over, you are raising children who are angry, bitter, resentful, and one day, when they have nowhere else to project that, it will still come back to you. Whatever seeds you sow, come back to you. So they'll not just be angry with their dad. At one point, this resentment, because now you've built it up in them. When you raise an animal to bite, it will bite anything. And it will come back to you. It will affect your relationship with them as well, and their future relationships. And so later you may be crying about, my children don't get married, they don't stay in marriage, but you planted the seeds of anger and bitterness and all of that. So I would advise the mothers who are raising their kids, don't focus much on the person who's not doing anything. Take it upon yourself, just like if you lost a limb, you learn how to live with the one. You don't keep on complaining about, I don't have my left hand. You learn how to live with the right hand. You learn how to do certain things. So take it upon yourself like, okay, I am the one who is here. What do these children need? So do they need a counselor sometimes? Do they need people to guide them at school? Do they need to hang out with other children who, you know, are more secure? You just become very deliberate around that to focus on the positive and not the negative.
True. Okay, as we wind up, this conversation, this conversation is so deep.
Ni therapy session leo.
Social media handles, tukiondokea, social media handles, Jasmine.
At Jasmine Bank.
Roberta Bobby everywhere, love and orgasms. Nitafutieni.
CJ Etemo everywhere.
Kabisa. Follow Willis Raburu. Kila pahali at Willis Raburu. Shutterboy Facebook, Shutterboy Instagram, Shatter tikitaka Twitter. Sawa sawa. Tupatane kesho tukiongelea matters health. I hope this conversation will shape you to be a good dad. Sawa sawa, and also a good mom and a good wife and a good husband. Sikiliza tu Kenya watu leo wamesema. Hata mimi nina learn. See ya. Bye. More life.